Hello.
Good morning.
Morning.
How are you doing?
A little bit under the weather, but I hope I can still speak properly.
Oh no, what's wrong? Have you got a cold?
I got everything.
Oh no, that's not good. Oh well, thank you for still joining us today.
Sure.
You're up first as well, so obviously if you feel unwell and that you need to log off, feel free.
Okay. So should I just put this in the background and wait until everybody's in, or how do we
Yeah,
do?
so we just asked you to join early just to check that your audio and video is working, which it is. So feel free to work in the background and I'll see you back in 10 minutes.
Perfect. Thank you.
Hi, Mercedes.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you and I can see you.
To be honest, I have a problem with my hearing today. I don't hear very well from this high, so you need to shout.
Oh, really? Oh, no.
It's very annoying. Well, anyway,
Oh.
if I'm shouting when I speak, you know why.
Yeah, I know why. Yeah, you can't hear a thing. Oh dear. I'm just gonna practice sharing my screen just to make sure it's working. Ta-da!
Very good.
Let me go full screen. Do I need to switch?
Say again?
On my screen, can you see the full presentation, or do I need to, can you see part of the presentation and then the preview of the next slide?
Yes, I can see two slides, the first one and then the next slide. Yes. Is
that better?
I think it's better here. Yeah.
Cool. No worries. Just want to check. Amazing. So apart from your ear, you okay?
Yes.
I've already said a quick hello to Mark. He's a bit under the weather, so he might just do his presentation and leave the webinar. But he's up first anyway, so.
Okay. But we are waiting for the other speakers, no? Have you asked them to join earlier?
Yeah.
So it's not a very good day in the UK to do this webinar.
I know.
I told you yesterday, I was about to say that when I wrote to you, I knew it, obviously not officially, that the Queen was dead, but I didn't want to do. I said, okay, let's wait.
I know. It's difficult. It's a difficult one. So we're not going to live tweet the webinar now just because it doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
But we will post about it next week, but it just didn't quite feel appropriate to.
No, yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a tricky one.
No, it's good you tell me that, because otherwise I will post something.
Yeah, I think we will definitely.
The webinar is not only UK; it's across Europe. But yeah, I understand, and especially for us that we are based in the UK. Yeah.
Hi, who has joined us? Matthias and Paul. Hi there.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Hello.
I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
Good. It's nice to meet you virtually.
Yeah, nice to meet.
Yes.
And how are you doing, Paul? Are you
All
okay?
good. Yes, sure. I even have sunshine in my background. Maybe I should do it a little bit less. Yes, all good. All fine. Yeah,
Good.
working on our project, implementing, working on full steam.
How's it going? How are things with the projects? All good?
We are
or-
quite good. Yeah, we're happy. It's moving on. It's moving on. Some days fast, some days a little bit less fast, but yes, it's pretty good. We're
Is this
pretty-
the last
Oh.
year of your project, or is it running next year as well?
Right.
it's running until end of June next year.
Okay.
Yes.
And Paul, sorry to ask you now, I know it's not the best moment, but because we are in the middle of the webinar, but I'm going to take the possibility to
Sure.
ask you, did you make the amendments for the subsidiary? So some of
Yes,
the budget is not people. Because I
I-
haven't received any notification and I was thinking, this is weird.
I have
You did.
submitted everything. Well,
Don't worry, don't panic, don't panic, don't
I
panic.
do. Now I do.
Very good.
Now I
No
do
panic,
panic.
no panic.
No,
I will
I'm-
ask Plaza. So Plaza, you know, is a system. So everything about IT can have mistakes or
No,
errors.
we even managed to include the Spanish subsidiary. We assigned the budget to the Spanish subsidiary.
When did you make the amendment? So the change. So a couple of days ago, not yesterday, before.
No, I think it was not yesterday. It was Wednesday
Okay.
or Tuesday. One of
Okay,
the
no
other.
worries. No worries. I will ask my colleagues.
No, well, from my perspective, we are done with amendments. No more to add.
Okay.
You've made him panic now, Miss Amy.
No panic. I wanted to know, and then I'm waiting for the invitation to go to see these facilities.
Yeah, well, it will take some time. I mean, if you are good, we start construction July next year.
Okay. So I have time.
Yeah. I mean, you can virtually see it. I will show some pictures today. We did some nice rendering. So I nearly can see it in front of my eyes. But
Yeah.
yes, we first of all need to get all the permits in place and the financing in place, and then we aim for start of construction next year.
Okay.
Yes. So definitely we will then do big parties or something. I don't know.
So Paul, just so you can meet Matthias as well. So do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself to Paul, Matthias, and about a bit about Cresponics? I know you're pitching obviously a bit later, but
Yeah. Should I start?
yeah, go for it.
Yeah, Matthias Djurstedt. I am co-founder of Cresponics, together with Anders Kissling, who is the professor of aquaculture in Sweden at Agriculture University here, and Sergio Zimmerman from Brazil, who is industry expert in the field with 35 years experience in shrimp and tilapia farming. And Anders and Sergio has the last 15 years trying to develop new land-based farming technology for shrimp and fish we call BioROS. And it's published, and a total of 16 large-scale farms in Africa and South America that is verifying it. And I came in 2 years ago, and we started Cresponics towards taking this innovative technology and adapting it to the colder environment, trying to establish a regional produced scampi product in Europe. And that's what we're doing. And last year we did our first pilot farm in Sweden. And right now we're closed investment round and establishing a first fry production and outgrowth in south of Sweden.
Amazing.
Nice. Yeah, my name is Paul Sindilayo. I'm co-founder of Next Tuna. We want to let's say, reproduce Atlantic bluefin tuna and take the tuna industry really into aquaculture and come away from this wild fisheries. For this, we have developed a concept based on floating recirculating systems as well, and have reserved a site in Spain, in the region of Valencia, where we are now in the middle of the permitting process for this full-scale, rather big-scale aquaculture facility, and now starting with financing the next round, finalizing the permitting process in order to start construction mid of next year.
Cool. Yeah, that is needed.
Yes, we think so, but there's still some challengings to handle.
I'm sure you will manage them.
We hope so. We are positive. Yes.
Laura, sorry to interrupt you, Paul. Laura, did you see the email from Chiara? She has problems to join.
I'm just looping in
Okay.
him to see if he can help her join. I don't know why he can't join using the link, but this is why we get people to join a few minutes early.
I had a few moments, Laura. That's why I'm sorry I was late, because I had
No
to
problem.
go around the house as I was sweating. So I had a few moments with the challenge with the link as well.
Just a general question. Are you present, or do you start the slides, or do we start? Do we share, or you do? How is it working?
So I will share my screen and I'll move the slides. So just tell me when you want to move to the next one and I'll move it along.
Okay.
We just thought it would be easier to put everyone's slides into one PowerPoint deck.
Yeah.
How are you doing, Sarah? You okay?
Very well, thank you. Yeah, very well indeed. Yeah, it's been super mild here for Scotland. So we're living a kind of, yeah. It's almost like a bit of an Indian summer, dare I say, which is good for the humans, but not always so good for the fish. But yeah, I know, gents, I'm right in the middle of fish farming here in Scotland on the west coast, in the north. So yeah, it's been lovely. And Laura came to join us earlier in the year up north as well, which was really good.
That was nice weather as well, wasn't it?
I know. I don't think we should say too much about maybe this.
No, let's not.
Absolutely.
When was it? Did you go there, Laura? I didn't know.
No, for A3, it was really nice, wasn't it?
Ah, yes.
And then Laura,
Seems like it was in another life. I don't know.
It wasn't you that it was. Yeah, it wasn't you that made it up to Aviemore. I forgot about that. I thought, no, Laura, did you make it?
Yeah, I came to Aviemore. Yeah, me
Yeah,
and
I
Jane.
thought that was. Yeah, I thought Jane. Yeah, that was good. So
by the way, Laura, Sarah, that you are here, I'm gonna take also the opportunity. I'm sending a lot of messages today to everyone. So I will contact you after this webinar. I mean, October or November, but before December for sure, to have a conversation about aquaculture and our strategy. So I'm just warning you now that you will receive news from Mercedes.
Mercedes, no problem. Always welcome.
Oh,
I think it's now, Laura, how many? It's almost 2 years that we have worked with EIT.
I know. That's
Yeah.
crazy, isn't it?
And food. So no, it's crazy. It's yeah.
Just to say a quick hi to Antonio as well. I've seen that you've.
Hi.
Hi. Okay, well, I think we will push forward and start letting people in as it's 10 o'clock. Okay. Okay, we will let people start joining. Good morning, everyone. So who's joining this morning? Oh, hi, Ingmar.
Good morning. How are you? Yeah.
Very well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, fine.
Nice
Fine.
to meet you virtually.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. That's right.
Perfect. Let's give it one more minute and then we'll get started.
You're taking over now, Antonio. I can see a big picture of you.
Is he filling your screen?
he took command.
Right. Good morning, everyone who's joining. I'll give it till, I was about to say I'll give it till 10:02 and it's just turned 10:02. So let's get started. So as people keep joining, feel free to drop your name and where you're joining from today in the chat box so we can see where you're joining from. So welcome to our EIT Food Aquaculture Innovation webinar. My name is Laura and I will be your moderator for today's session. So before we get started with the webinar itself, I've just got a few housekeeping rules that I'll just quickly mention. As we are using the webinar add-on feature in Zoom, your video and your microphone will be turned off automatically unless you are one of our speakers. We do want this to be an interactive session, however, so if you have a question, please do post it in the Q&A box, or if you have any other comments, you can use the chat box. We're also going to aim to have a bit of an interactive session about halfway through the webinar to get your thoughts and feedback. So that'll be a chance to sort of talk to us a little bit. We're also going to have a Q&A session towards the end of the webinar, and we'll do our best to pause after each of the speakers have done their presentation to answer a few quick questions that you might have. We are about to, I think we are already recording the session. So we're going to upload it online just in case anyone couldn't join today and they want to watch it afterwards. Finally, we are going to provide a version of the slides, so don't worry about trying to write anything down. You can just sit back and enjoy the session. So let me share my screen. Okay. So hopefully everyone can see my screen. Someone give me a thumbs up. Thanks, Sarah. Thank you. So today we're going to be telling you about why we care about aquaculture at EIT Food and how you can help us to solve some of the biggest challenges in the sector. For those of you who do not know EIT Food, we are the world's largest and most dynamic food innovation community. Supported by the EU, we have teams across Europe that are working together to build an inclusive, resilient and innovative food system that produces healthy and sustainable food for everyone. In terms of aquaculture, we already have a brilliant portfolio of aquaculture projects at EIT Food, focusing on different challenges within the sector, with things such as sustainable fish feed ingredients, fish health and disease, and optimization of aquaculture production methods. We're looking for new partners to join our growing community, and we're also looking for new projects that will help to transform aquaculture into a more sustainable food sector. Just to mention that some of you might have heard that at EIT Food, we recently launched our 2023 Open Innovation Call, where we are accepting proposals for new projects across a range of areas, one of which is aquaculture. We're not going to be talking about this specific call in this webinar, but we will share details about the call with you in an event following on from the webinar, just in case you do want to take a look at the call and whether you would maybe want to apply for it, if of interest. So let's move on to what the agenda is looking like for today. Okay. So the agenda for today is as follows. Firstly, you will hear from partners in our community that are leading aquaculture projects. You'll then hear a bit from our innovation program manager, Mercedes, who's going to be telling you about our aquaculture mission and some of the challenges that we want you to help us to solve. We're then going to have some pictures from 4 pre-selected companies who are working in the aquaculture space, and then we'll have some time for some questions towards the end. So I feel like I've spoken a lot. Let's get started. So as I said, in this first section, we're going to be talking about, well, hearing from our partners, essentially, so you can hear about what they're working on, why they're working with us. As we sort of move into this section, if you've got any questions, pop them in the Q&A. So I'm going to introduce our first speaker, Mark Cresponics, who is the CEO of Seaweed. Seaweed is part of EIT Food's Rising Food Stars Association, and Mark's going to be talking to us about the EIT Food Seaweed Pro project. So I'm going to hand over to you, Mark. Let me know when you want me to move forward with your slides.
Yeah. Thank you for the invitation, first of all. So let's move on directly to the first slide. Basically, the primary reason why the company was founded was to address 2 key issues. The first one is seafood waste. We lose about 35% of the annual production. And please press the next button. I have some animations as well. And the second is, of course, seafood safety in terms of the consumer, where we know that all sorts of parasites and bacteria may cause significant foodborne outbreaks. Next slide, please. So the idea, the way that we came up to actually tackle this is a simple natural-based processing technology. So what we do is we immerse fish tissue, like a seafood fillet, a sea bass fillet, inside a vat filled with a liquid that we make, which is comprised of natural vegetable oils and sugars. And this very quickly draws out the excess moisture trapped inside the fish tissue, which bacteria need to grow. So once we basically do this process, the bacteria that cause spoilage, thus reducing shelf life, thus increasing waste, and safety issues, basically reduce their growth rate. So you have a lot more time to actually consume the product. Next slide, please. Yes, so basically the primary mode of preservation of fresh seafood at the moment is modified atmosphere packaging. So you have a big bulky plastic package, and in there you inject all sorts of gases, usually CO2 and nitrogen, to keep the product inside fresh by, again, stalling the growth rate of the pathogens. What we do compared to that is superior in the sense that we can double the shelf life without affecting the final characteristics of the seafood product, so the taste or the odor, and we can do it in a more cost-effective way, essentially. Next slide, please. So in general, the company is targeting mostly Mediterranean aquaculture, and we're usually targeting aquacultures and processors in sea bass and sea bream. Next slide, please. But the key question that we wanted to tackle with this project with EIT Food was, okay, we have this process, we know it works very, very well. Can we have some added value by adding additional controls to the process? So how long do we let the seafood marinate inside the ingredients, and how much water do we specifically, like very accurately measured, do we want to remove from the seafood, and what these effects are on the final characteristics of the seafood, meaning shelf life, and also consumer relevant characteristics like odor, taste, appearance, these sort of things. So that's why we basically applied for Project Seaweed Pro basically 2 years ago, which was funded by EIT Food. Next slide, please. And there, basically, we take the following approach. There are 3 partners, excuse me, in the project. And basically what we do is we work on the marination of the seafood, scientific term osmosis, and we also attach in the equipment some extra sensors that can actually measure the whole process as it is happening. So we can measure how much water indirectly comes out of the seafood. Then we take that information, we model it into a dashboard that potential processors can actually have a better outlook of the whole process. And of course, we complement all of this, making sure that the end result is appropriate to be commercialized, because in the end, we need this seafood, this processed seafood, to go to the consumer. Next slide, please. The partners are two academic partners, so the University of Aarhus in Denmark and the Agricultural University of Athens in Greece, and of course, SUSI, which is essentially, let's say, the more commercial side of the project. Next slide, please. Yeah, so what have we achieved so far? We've actually implemented the sensors inside the vat while we are doing the dehydration of the seafood. We have come up with specific documentation and basically measured a lot of data and done a lot of dry runs, and then worked on it continuously. We have, based on this data sets, we have completed and created a simple data model, but with a lot of data, which can actually predict the shelf life of the seafood after the process. So basically, by the way, yeah, seafood shelf life, we're talking about how many days before it actually expires when you buy it from the supermarket. So we can predict that in a much more accurate manner with a simple dashboard that we can actually give to any potential clients. And of course, we have done lots and lots of dissemination, speeches, press, the Economist, Aquaculture conference, etc., to actually advertise the findings and actually promote the project to a broader audience. Next slide, please. Yeah, so a key question, of course, is, especially for prospective people that are looking to apply for the upcoming innovation call, is what does EIT Food bring to the table? Well, obviously, funding. That is the core reason why people apply for this sort of project. But then there's some advantages compared to, let's say, a Horizon Europe project, because you do have the ability to have essentially a designated project officer with whom you can communicate very often, and you can say that, okay, I have an administrative problem, how do we tackle this problem, technical problem, and there is a constant sense of support. And of course, there are constant opportunities that you might actually be able to leverage through the EIT Food Network. So there are presentations which can help you actually achieve the project goals, and all sorts of other funding opportunities and opportunities to connect with network partners. So it's funding with a few extras, basically. Next slide.
And that's it, I think.
Yeah, thank you.
Back one. Thank you so much, Mark. Does anyone have any questions? We've got a couple of minutes. I can see there's some things in the Q&A box. Mercedes, I don't know if you can.
Yeah, I'm checking the chat box, but there is no.
It's just people telling us where they're joining from, which is lovely.
Yes, no, there are no questions so far.
We've got greetings from Spain, from Kenya,
yeah,
Scotland.
Wow, it's around the world. Amazing.
We like it. Amazing. Okay, well, in that case, we're going to have a dedicated Q&A session towards the end anyway. So if anyone thinks of any questions for Mark, please do drop them in the Q&A box. And thanks, Mark. It was great to hear about your journey with us and a bit more about your project. So thank you. So I'm now going to introduce our next speaker, who is Paul Sindelariu, who is the co-founder of Next Tuna, one of EIT Food's partners. And Next Tuna is creating a sustainable source of Atlantic bluefin tuna using recirculating aquaculture systems. So I'm going to pass over to Paul.
Yes, Laura, thank you very much. And maybe as well as the next slide.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. So what I would like to talk about is shortly introduce our project, the Next Tuna project, and as well talk about our partners in the project, timelines, what we have achieved so far, what is still open, what we still want to do in the next couple of months and then talk a bit about the EIT Food Partnership. Next one, please. Well, the next tuna project, clearly our target is we want to reproduce Atlantic bluefin tuna on a commercial scale and supply sustainable and certified tuna juveniles into the existing grow-out facilities. Just for background, all tuna that is eaten at the moment worldwide comes from white fisheries. Some of the fish were transferred live into net cages, then grown further to market size and then sold. And we want to replace this wild catch with our aquaculture produced fish. In order to tackle this rather huge project, we divided it into 3 phases. One phase, development, that's where we are in now, started July last year, supposed to end this end of June next year. Co-funded by EIT Food. What we wanted to do here is really do the conceptual work, make the design of the system, really think the entire project through, start with the site selection, do the permitting process, and then as well start the financing of the construction and operational period. Next slide, next one. Then next phase is definitely the site selection. Exactly, we found a site that's east coast of Spain, province of Valencia, port of Castellón. There's a harbor. Next one. That there's some empty space in this harbor which we are in the process of reserving and doing the entire permitting and concessioning process. Next one. And then in order to start our construction phase, where we as well start reproducing the fish, planned start of the construction phase July next year, and it's gonna last until 2028, since we need to start with juvenile fish, and then until they reach maturity it will take 4 years. So we start construction next year, 2024. We expect to have the first systems in place, stock them with the fish, then it will take another 4 years until our first fish get mature so we can start reproducing. What we're going to do in this second phase, in this construction breeding phase, obviously construct the infrastructure, implement first sales, and achieve our full cycle reproduction in 2028, meaning 4 times a year out of season reproduction, continuous production of juveniles that then are going to be sold to the existing grow-out industry. Next one. And then as soon as we have closed the reproductive cycle, are in a constant reproduction operation, then operation phase, we just run a fish farm and start expanding worldwide with satellite hatcheries. Next one. How did we integrate our innovation triangle, which is an essential part of the EIT Food funding scheme? We are 2 SMEs, Next Tuna, funded in Germany. We as a project leader, we came up with this idea, do as well as the coordination of the entire project, and are the main exploiting partner of the results. We teamed up with Sea Farming Systems from Norway. They are naval engineers. They help us with a very specific design that we needed to develop this concept of production of Atlantic bluefin tuna, meaning floating recirculating system. We're gonna exploit this secondary product, if you want to tell it that way, together with them in implementing this floating system idea as well for other aquaculture species outside the tuna industry. Next one. Then we have universities, Wageningen University and Research. They help us with the breeding program for Atlantic bluefin tuna. And we work together on developing infertile fish. Infertility due to several reasons. One main one is to avoid escapees on a later stage when we sell the fish into net cages. You always have the issue of potential escapees, which then genetically contaminate the wild population. We absolutely want to avoid this. So our plan is to sell infertile fish to our customers. They have the additional advantage that these fish grow faster since they don't develop gonadal gonads. So they have the full energy for growth, and obviously as well to protect our know-how and our rootstock so that our customers cannot just overpass us and continue the reproduction with the fish that we supply to them. Next one. And the fourth, more as well, very important partner is Spanish Oceanographic Institute. They are the experts in Europe with Atlantic bluefin tuna. They help us with the entire concept, validate our concept, and we have there's a possibility as well to really do tests with the fish. At the moment, we have an infertility test running at their facility, coordinated by Wageningen University Research, and IO has the fish and kind of does the work. Next one. Well, where are we in the project? We are at the red arrow. We have quite a journey behind us. We started we funded the company in 2020. Then before we had any funding, we started the site selection process, applied for the EIT funding. We won this EIT grant in May and started the project in June last year. Then we proceeded with developing our partnership, looking at 2 specific sites, starting develop these sites, finalize the breeding program, finalized our first financing round, so we can top up the 70% funding that we get from EIT with private capital. Developed our concept, got it approved by our partners from Japan, from the Spanish Oceanographic Institute. We started reserving the sites, did a final decision on the site selection, ended up in Castellón de la Plana in Spain, and implemented the local subsidiary, which is then the one applying for the concession, applying for the permits. You cannot do it with a foreign company. You have to have a local Spanish company in order to apply for all the permits. The next steps is, well, doing this permitting process. That's an elaborate, taking a bit longer time process. We expect to have the permits in place first, second quarter next year. We started now the second funding round. We want to have the second funding round finalized as well before mid of next year, in order to really start in construction by mid 2023. Next one. What have we achieved so far? Well, the breeding program, that's clear. That was the basis for doing the entire concept of the facility, designing the facility. We got our concept approved by our external partners from Japan, from the Spanish Oceanographic Institute. We finalized the site selection, local subsidiary is in place, and we started the permitting process with local partners, local engineering companies, advisors, simply to navigate through the not always straightforward permitting process. Next one. Obviously, there are still some things open. I mean, you can see the nice visualization of our future facility. So at least we can see it in front of our eyes. That means as well, the probability that's gonna happen is pretty there. What we still have open, obviously, to get all the permits. We started the process. We expect 6 to 9 months feedback time. We want to secure some pre-sales contract even before we have started the production, to have agreements with our customers, with the operators of net cages, that they are willing to take our fish. That's going to be finalized within this year. We need to secure the financing for really starting the construction, and then obviously mid next year start the construction in this port area that is reserved for us. Next one. Let's talk about a little bit about the EIT Food Partnership. Definitely EIT Food is the key partner to this project. Without them, we wouldn't be sitting here. We wouldn't be looking at this nice visualization. The project most probably wouldn't be there. It has been a very, very great financial support, and we as well receive help for the future financing. And EIT has been really a great partner in the project, but obviously, and next one, there are still some things to improve. Sometimes the communication can be a little bit more straightforward, and some of the process could be simplified, but overall we are very happy. And next one. I would like to thank you for your attention, and special thanks to EIT Food, which made this possible. Thanks.
Amazing. No, thank you so much, Paul. It's great to see how this project's moved forward since last year. It's really exciting that you're sort of coming into that stage now of getting your facility up and running. Mercedes, is there any questions for Paul? I saw that there was one for Mark, but I think it's been answered now.
Yes, there is one question for Paul, and the question is, will the aquaculture set up the RAS systems? If so, what type of biofilter will be used?
Yes, definitely it's going to be a RAS system. We're going to use moving bed bioreactors, a special concept that has been developed in Denmark. I've been working with this since the last 15 years at least. So that's as well my background. I've been working since 20 years in aquaculture and recirculating aquaculture. So we are going to base our production system on proof technology known from the salmon industry, known from other aquaculture facilities. And now we're going to move it into tuna. So the biological treatment was a RAS treatment part. That's not the challenging one. The most challenging one is the tuna biology.
Thank you, Paul. There is another question. What is the projected annual production in tons?
Our plan is to produce 1,200 tons of juveniles. Expected sale, well, juveniles, I used to call them fingerlings, but that's inappropriate because the target sale size is between 2 and 10 kilos, so they have nothing to do with a finger anymore. So they are juveniles. We need to keep them for a prolonged period of time. That has to do with a very delicate tuna biology, meaning the fish get stable, or well, tuna is a warm-blooded fish species, actually one of the very few warm-blooded fish species. With their internal heating systems, they are indifferent of water temperature, but for them to develop this internal heating system, they need to reach about a size of 2 kilo and more. So that's why we need to keep the fish for a longer period of time, so they become 2+ kilo. So they are then, if we sell them to the grow-out facilities with the net cages, so then they are stable with our customers, and then our customers only focus on growing them to the final size of 75 or 100 kilo.
Thank you, Paul. No more questions so far.
Amazing. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So our final speaker in this section of the webinar is Sarah Riddle, who is the Director of Innovation and Engagement at Sustainable Aquaculture Innovation Centre, also known as SAKE. SAKE is an EIT Food Northwest partner, and we've been delighted to work with Sarah in person at various events this year. Sarah will be talking to us about her working relationship with EIT Food, and will also be giving her viewpoint about some of the most pressing challenges that we need to solve in the aquaculture sector in the coming years. So I will pass over to Sarah.
Morning, Laura. Thank you so much, and thank you for doing the SAKE introduction as well. That saves me. So for those that don't know you, yes, delighted to be here, and I'm Director of Innovation and Engagement with SAKE. And I've been working with SAKE now for nearly 3 years, 2 of which I've been delighted to be working with the EIT Food team. And I bring a very practical insight to innovation, as I have been the farmer for many years prior to joining SAKE. So I'm really pleased to be here and to share a flavour of the working with the EIT team. And I think I'd like to get across the complement and collaboration, the strength in us partnering with EIT. So first, let me give a quick overview, scene setting of aquaculture here in the UK, introduce a little as to what SAKE's focus area is, because that again must tie in. And then again, summarise with how important we've seen the working relationship pay off already. So yes, scene setting, thank you very much. And I think it's probably important for me just to anchor the conversation with the graph on the left, and that's UK fisheries and aquaculture production. Okay, it's 2017, so it's actually an even greater picture. But while the two sectors are similar in value, approximately £1 billion annually, the aquaculture is less than 1/3 of the volume. And that's where we see a significant shift in that decrease in fisheries and increase in aquaculture, which could be reflected globally as well. The top, the right-hand table gives me great humour to say that salmon does sit above Scotland in in front of chocolate, beg your pardon, sit ahead of chocolate, but behind whiskey. So that maybe says something about our Scottish diet, but it also says something important about the importance of salmon to the economy here as a UK food and drink critical mass for the economy, producing, you know, sustainable food that is healthy and nutritious. If you would, Laura, just move on for me. Thank you. And here's some of the key stats in terms of how it impacts and how important they are to often very fragile highland and island communities, delivering economic value directly and indirectly and providing premium product to the global market. So we're currently contributing over 1.8 billion annually to the Scottish economy and projected to reach annual contribution by 2030 of 3.6 billion. Now, these figures are from 2018, and I wanted to hold on to these because it shows when we baseline that objective to increase and double by 2030. Already we're on that trajectory. 2021, we were over 210,000 tonnes of salmon produced. But look at the other statistics in terms of number of jobs. That was 8,000 jobs at that point. We're now over 10. And again, we've talked on what it produces economy-wise of 1.8 billion. So it's a very important contributor to the economy, both producing-wise, the supply chain with a lot of large multinationals and SMEs, we heard from colleagues there, looking at genetics, equipment, engineering, sensors and monitoring, all becoming more and more important. And we have a very strong academic base with global links and a community of alumni that support that. And I think that's what, again, I'd like to touch on, because innovation is very rarely done on its own. And that's where, again, we've seen the strength in working closely with EIT. If I could. Laura, thank you. Yeah, just, this is a very sobering graph, but we are very top heavy, as you may see. The 96% of UK aquaculture is all in Scotland. So again, you can see the fragile part of that, with the Shetland Islands being a very north remote part in blue, and that's where over 70% of the UK's mussels are grown. And that's probably fair to say that although we have a powerhouse of finfish, sake, and again, our EIT relations have been touching on shellfish, finfish, and seaweed. So I'll ask you to move on for me there. So who are SAKE? Sustainable Aquaculture Innovation Centre. We are one of 7 of the Scottish Government's innovation centres, responsible ultimately to help the sector, the aquaculture sector, sustainable growth and impact for the long term. So we are here to tackle some of those challenges and ultimately bring R&D to aid us progressing that sustainable growth mission. And we often work with other members of the Innovation Centre. I just touch on the Data Lab. Again, we have an amazing amount of applicability for machine learning, artificial intelligence in the sector, iBioIC, particularly on biotechnology and ensuring we are circular in everything we do, and Census, looking at those IoT solutions for an environment that we do not share with the stock that we look after. So that's just who we are, and also some of our sisters, because again, that's applicable to how we've worked with EIT. Thank you, Laura. What our focus is, because although it's a broad church, we try to tie these down to 3 areas, and I hope this again starts to funnel into our working with EIT. So based on very close consultation with the sector, we've got 3 focus areas, and this is where we fund, and this is where we also put our energies into. The first one is finfish health and welfare, and reduction of environmental impacts. This can be, oh my goodness, many projects can sit within this for us, from vaccine development to progressive blood chemistry technology on identifying challenge in the water. Unlocking additional capacity can be from modelling of EDA of water to impact on seabed and future locations for farming, maybe below the surface, as an example. And lastly, shellfish and non-finfish, with many uses of, whether that's remediation or whether that's looking at genetics in shellfish to understand fragilities of shell in certain areas, or indeed fouling on shells. So that's our priority innovation areas, and I think again it's a good base to understand how and where we've worked with EIT. She knows me well. There we go. And in terms of our breadth and depth, although firmly based in the UK, our working relationships are huge. We've got over 180, no, beg your pardon, we've over 280 consortium members covering a broad church from our universities, our stakeholders, such as government stakeholders, producers, supply chain from pharmaceutical to feed to equipment, technology, etc., etc. And within that, I think we don't just stay still. In the UK, we're always looking at over the water learnings and indeed partners in many of the projects, and the EIT projects we've successfully worked with are perfect examples of that broader reach across Europe. So I'm tailoring down to my last two slides, and I thought this was probably, again, just to tie back to the ambition of growth. That's where innovation is such a key part for us. And again, it anchors back to this government position that we have clearly made, that we will grow. You know, we will achieve these numbers of 3.6 billion, of 18,000 jobs, and establish leadership groups for the industry that have not only applicability here, but in the wider producing part, as we produce a very, very healthy protein and ability to feed the wider world. And then the last one, just to bring me, again, focusing even further in terms of opportunity, we work with the producers group. It's so important that we are here sector-led and indeed to produce practical solution. But I thought you would quite like this to where are the ultimate, where are we also focusing on? Very important, 100% renewable energy in a circular and organic waste, sustainable feed ingredients, reuse of plastics or recycling of potential pens or nets that we use, and explore the potential for new technologies, not only to capture waste, but to also manage our stock, visually understand how that is developing in the wider world. So I thought that was quite a good place to land and say, these ambitions have got to be married, if you will, with innovation as a key part. And that is why we're so pleased to be working with EIT Food and strength of the network to aid new collaborations and bring innovative solutions through the funding of EIT, and hopefully the examples that I've given and also my two fellow speakers will show the art of the possible. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you, Sarah. Are there any questions in the chat box, Mercedes, for Sarah?
Yes, there is one for Chiara. Thanks, Chiara. It is great to see that you connect different players to each other. Do you also work with startups?
I also work with
startups.
Yes, absolutely. A lot of SMEs and startups fall in, Mercedes, absolutely. I think where we're both probably quite clear in terms of our technology readiness level, SAKES levels is typically that 3 to 7, and that's, I think, where there's really nice complement with the EIT. But yes, there's that startup has taken the initial steps of concept and is now into the technology ready level 3 to 7, then absolutely, yes.
Thank you, Sarah. There is another question for Paul, Laura. I don't know if you want to
yeah,
move it to
is Paul still here? Yeah, brilliant.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure, yes.
So the question is, what is the project? No, not that one.
Yeah, it was that I answered it.
You already answered.
The projected time for the tuna to reach 2 kilos, that's about 5 months from egg to 2 kilo, and then it takes them about another 6 months to reach 10 kilo. So in total, we have 11 months expected from egg to 10 kilo and 5 to 2 kilo. Yes.
Thank you, Laura. Oh, Paul, sorry.
No, thank you, Mercedes. And thank you to all of our partners for coming to speak on our webinar this morning. It's always lovely to hear from all of you. So now we're just going to spend a few minutes talking about why we care about aquaculture at EIT Food. And this is to give you an idea about some of the challenges that we ultimately want you to help us to address. So for this section, I'm just going to pass over to Mercedes, who is our Innovation Programme Manager at EIT Food Northwest, who leads on our aquaculture focus area. So over to you, Mercedes.
Thank you, Laura, for your great introduction, and good morning, everyone. Welcome to this webinar. I would like to start by saying that I'm very pleased to see that aquaculture is gaining momentum with interest in the sector growing exponentially around the world. And I base this data, or these facts, on the very high registration we received for this webinar, the increase in aquaculture events every year, as well as the number of the new aquaculture startups and projects that come up every day. Today, we will look at an overview of the sustainable aquaculture focus areas at EIT Food. But before we start, I would like to tell you that you can explore our website to learn more about our aquaculture projects in more details, as well as the variety of partners and startups we have been working with us. And you can also follow us on social media to keep up to date our aquaculture stories and content. In addition, I would like to say that I'm always happy and open to having a conversation with you about this sector, and happy also to set up a call and discuss how we might collaborate and work together to grow this industry. Now, let's start. Could you please, the next one, thank you. Let's start by explaining why EIT Food focuses on aquaculture. So today we know that aquaculture plays a vital role in meeting our global food needs. We also know, sorry, I hope you can see the baby at the background, sorry for this. We also know that in the next 10 years, aquaculture must expand sustainably, not only to provide healthy and nutritious food for a growing population, but also to generate new sources of incomes and employment. However, we also know that aquaculture still faces many challenges along its value chain. So, to keep up with the increased demand, aquaculture must grow urgently, and it must be environmentally, socially, and economically sustainable. In other words, aquaculture must improve impact on ecosystems, ensure social equality, and respond to the consequence of climate change. Now, next slide, please. What is our mission in aquaculture? Overall, our mission is to transform and expand the aquaculture sector into a sustainable form of food production. We will achieve this by reducing its carbon footprint, by changing to a circular economy, and by ensuring food security and safety. So next slide, Laura, please.
Yeah.
Thank you. The EIT Food Community is expanding rapidly in this sector. On this slide, you can see the many partners who are collaborating with us in making an impact in this sector. They include universities, research centers, industries, and startups across Europe. Next slide, please.
There we go.
To work on the transformation of the aquaculture sector, we have identified 4 main challenges. The first one is optimizing the existing production systems. The second one, developing new farming systems. The third one is improving and maintaining ecosystem health. And last but not least, is improving supply chain for safety, quality, and sustainability. For our current Innovation Open Call 2023, we have predefined specific challenges within each of these main challenges. And these specific challenges are the ones that we think innovation technology solutions are the most needed. Each proposal must select at least one of these specific challenges. For example, within the main challenge number 2, which is developing new farming systems, we are looking for proposals that will develop new and novel, sustainable, and highly scalable production systems, or we are also looking for proposals that will create new foods from aquaculture, and here includes new species, as well as micro and macro algae. Or also proposals that will develop circular and integrated production systems, such as integrated multi-trophic aquaculture systems, recirculated aquaculture systems, aquaponics, etc. Next slide, please. And now to end my presentation, I would like to explain what kind of support or tools we can provide to help you build your consortium. First of all, we want you to work in aquaculture with us, and we are here to make this happen. We will help you to find a partner with specific skills you need for your project. Second, for this call, we have set up an open innovation platform where you can, you can start collaborating with others. Next slide, please. In this open innovation platform, you will find collaborators through a great online community of innovators. You can also co-create your innovation projects, and you can also join another project or another ideas. So registration on this platform is free and open for everyone. And you can see the link, the registration link at the bottom of this slide, or also in the call guidelines will be available. I think this is all from me. Laura,
Yeah, that's all from you for now, Mercedes. I don't know if you've got a couple of questions in the Q&A box.
let me check. There is one question for Sarah, probably. Sarah, would you be happy to take this question, Sarah?
Sorry, Mercedes, I was just having a moment there. I didn't hear you quite well, but of course I will. Sorry, fire that one at me again, please.
The question is, what are non-fin fish species farmed in the UK?
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mercedes. Mainly mussels. It would be so shellfish, mussels. You have a little bit of oysters, and then seaweed. So a multiple different seaweeds are farmed. It's small still, but I think we recognise it's got a significant opportunity.
Okay, there is another question that we can answer together, but I will start with my answer. So is access to skills, education and training a barrier to sustainable aquaculture growth? Of course, we need to improve in that aspect and that elements, and we are also at EIT Food running education projects in aquaculture. So this is something that we need to also work on, and not just in innovation. Sarah, you want to elaborate here?
Yes, and this is again where it's a beautiful complement with EIT. So SAKE have a specific remit, not only driving innovative projects, but also nurturing the future, the skills for the future. So we will fund masters, PhD students, but we'll also run leadership courses, innovation courses. We work with women in Scottish aquaculture, returning to work. And we're also working with the vocational route of coming via colleges and universities as well. So that's a clear remit for SAKE, not only of driving, nurturing, and then that knowledge exchange piece as well. So I think we all recognise to be ready for the growth and also the sustainable piece, that next generation. And of course, as the skills are becoming more complicated as well, and we are onboarding more technologies as well, this is critically important.
Thank you, Sarah.
There is one more question. Is this project, I assume is about the call, also offered in Kenya? And if yes, which areas? So you can read all, see the eligibility countries in the call guidelines, but yes, organization based in Kenya can apply for this project as long as they are able to show that the impact will be in Europe. So the impact of the project need to be in Europe. And if the organization is based in Kenya and you have another 3 more partners in your consortium in Europe, you will you are eligible to apply. That's
Thank
it,
you, Mercedes. Yeah, thank you, Mercedes. So we're now gonna try, if we can, and get a little bit interactive. And this can go either way. This can go well, or this can go horribly wrong. So I'm hoping this is going to go well. But we basically like to hear from you now. We've done a lot of the talking. And we've basically set up a few questions on slido.com that we want to kind of get your thoughts on. So if people can either scan that QR code that we popped up on the screen, or just type in www.slido.com. And then there's a game code on screen, which is the hashtag 1249466. So I'm going to give everyone a couple of minutes to try and get over to Slido. And then we'll go through some of those questions. But the questions are really quick and easy. It's basically asking you why you're passionate about aquaculture, asking you what types of challenges are you interested in solving, and then there's also a question about talking about your company. You know, would you like to form a project consortium, for example? What do you have to offer? So yeah, let's just give everyone a minute to try and get over to Slido. And what I will say as well is we're aiming to basically take the results from this activity and share it with you in a follow-up email after this webinar, so you can see everyone's responses as well. So I am just going to stop sharing for a moment just while I try and get over to Slido myself. And I can already see people are filling in the questions. So let me try and share my screen so everyone can see what everyone is saying. Lovely. Amazing. So here we go. So with this first question that we've asked you, which is why are people passionate about aquaculture? So this is quite nice because this is forming a word cloud on the screen so we can see what are some of the words that people are saying. So sustainability being a really big one. People are passionate about aquaculture because it helps to feed the future. We've got technology. We've got sustainable and healthy, food safety, protein, jobs, seaweed. There's lots of things coming up, which is really nice to see. Needed in the green transformation. Potential, I like that word. So people were saying that there's a lot of potential to transform the aquaculture industry, which is really nice to see. I'll give people a couple more moments in case they want to add anything to that. It's fun, lovely.
It's also good to see that we are very aligned with the passion of our participants today in terms of our challenges.
Definitely, definitely. Improve human health, communities. This is brilliant. This is great to see. Okay, shall I go over to the next question? Oh no, someone's typing. Let's give someone a moment to finish their response. Amazing. Right, let me go over to the next one then. So the second question is asking you about some of the challenges that you particularly are interested in solving within the aquaculture space. So in Mercedes' presentation, when she sort of alluded to those four kind of big broad challenges that we're focusing on at EIT Food, and then some of the sort of sub specific challenges that we're interested in. So one of them being optimizing existing production systems. We've got one about developing new farm systems, maintaining and improving ecosystem health, and then one about quality. So I'll give people a couple of moments to write down their thoughts on that. So that's just multiple choice. You can pick just one challenge, or if you're interested in many, it's just quite nice to get a snapshot of what people are thinking. Interesting. So at the moment, our top one is Oh no, is it changing? Developing new farming systems, creating new foods from aquaculture, such as microalgae. And optimizing existing production systems also being a common one. It's interesting to see it changing. What do you think, Mercedes? This looks good, right? So people are aligned with the challenges at EIT Feed, which is great.
Yes, it looks like, yeah, and it will be great to receive many proposals around these challenges, that they will address these challenges. Yes, looks good.
Definitely. So in the note of time, let's just move on to that third question quickly, which is basically, it's up to you whether you want to respond to this, but we're basically asking you, what is the name of your company and what are the types of skills and capabilities that you have to offer? And with the aim of this question, because we're going to share the results of this activity, it means that if you see a name of a company pop up on screen that you would like us to connect you with, it enables you to do that, so we can provide those connections for you offline if the said company is happy to be connected to. Yeah, it'd be great to see the.
If I may add something here, this is when I explain my. Sorry, about that we will help you to find partners for your project. So if you need specific skills for your project, and we will try to make introduction and find the right partner. So here is important that if you are happy to be introduced by others, or to just to build a consortium. So we are happy to help you with this.
Amazing, and it's just nice to see the sheer amount of companies that are working in this space. I mean, I think that's what's really exciting, and the fact that we've got different people working on lots of different things.
And also for us, it's also important to know what are the organizations and the companies in Europe that are working in aquaculture. So for us, it's also to expand and grow our network.
Definitely. There's still a few people typing, quite a few people typing, so it's great to see. We've got people focusing on sensors, seaweed, production, energy efficiency, processes, AI. This is brilliant. And I think this just goes to show that aquaculture is just becoming increasingly innovative. And there's such a need for technology. I'm seeing lots of tech popping up that people are working on, which is really exciting. And this is going to lead on quite nicely into the kind of final section of this webinar in a moment, where we're going to be hearing from some pre-selected companies that are coming to pitch basically their technologies and their solutions to you today. So we've got 4 people typing. So if I just let those final people type their responses, and then we will move on, and I'll go back to the presentation. It's great to see we've got literally people all over the world responding as well, which is amazing.
And also that while we are waiting for people finish this slide, so I encourage you to also register in Hype and to include and add your skills, because there are many innovators there in the online platform, and they are looking for partners to collaborate around an idea. So if you want to be funded, it's a great place to be also there.
Do you want to maybe drop a link to that in the chat, Mercedes?
Yes, I will. Yeah.
And also just to say, if anyone's had any trouble joining Slido and they for some reason haven't been able to join, feel free to just post your comment in the chat instead, just in case you're having any issues. Okay, 1 person left. I'm going to give you 20 seconds to finish. and then we're going to move on. Oh, there's a lovely response from AgriTrack. Okay, final 10 seconds. I think people are finished. Lovely, really, really good to get everyone's contributions there. Thank you so much. I'll stop sharing the Slido, and then we will go back to the presentation, where we will move on to our final section, which is the pictures. Okay, so here we go then. So we're now going to spend the next few minutes hearing from some of the companies that have got aquaculture solutions who are going to pitch their ideas to you. Each company will have up to about 5 minutes to tell you about what they're working on. So the first company that we are going to hear from is called Monitor Fish. So we have Chaitanya, the CEO and founder. Monitor Fish has created a technology to optimize fish growth and reduce fish loss during farming. So I know, Chaitanya, you're having a few issues joining the webinar, but I hope you've managed to join. And if so, we can hand over to you now.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you. It was quite an interesting session of what we had before. I could not agree more with the panelists what we had so far. Aquaculture on paper, when we see the number, it's very attractive. There is a high number of fish which is expected to come from aquaculture, and this is something that we saw around 3 to 4 years back. We saw simple sheet, there was less fish coming from the oceans, and we were like, what's going on? But most of the fish were being eaten, and there is still demand for fish, and that has to come from somewhere, and aquaculture was the legit option. However, we started looking very critically at the fish farmers. So what we have from the numbers to achieve those numbers, what is missing is the fish farm is so stuck on a larger scale. They are so stuck in the past. Most of their processes are so labor intensive. It is based on still intrinsic knowledge. If you lose fish in between, because it's an agricultural growth, if you lose fish in between, then you lose the entire revenue, and then suddenly your farm is in financial troubles. So these are some of the challenges that we thought, okay, there needs to be a technology that needs to breach these funds so that we achieve those numbers what we just saw. And if we proceed to the next slide.
Of course.
So this is where we came up with a digital aquaculture assistant for fish farms. We just wanted to provide a technology what farmers are used to it. So the best way to look at a fish is the way humans look at it, through our eyes. So we thought of, why don't we put eyes underwater? So we created stereo cameras which go underwater. And these are the cameras that are specially made for land-based fish farms. So we can estimate fish growth. We can check the shape, the size of the fish to suggest to the farmer what needs to be done and how is the fish actually growing. Having said that, this sounds so easy. If you go to the next slide, we have 3 steps of doing it. It sounds super easy, and this, as simple as this slide is of 3 steps. It took us 3 years to actually deliver this, because we came up with an awful idea of putting electronics underwater. What can go wrong, right, when you mix electronics and water? So everything went wrong for us in the initial days, but we tried to fix it. And now a few months or few weeks back, I'm quite proud to say that we are the only team right now which can deliver a good amount of biomass, very accurate biomass, in dark conditions, in turbid conditions, and high density volumes. So we can actually check what is the distribution of the fish then based on the distribution, whether this is normally distributed or this is not, farmer can actually take precautions on how they feed, how they actually how much capacity do they have in terms of actually stocking density, what is the right stocking density for their tanks. And the most important question, how much can they sell in which month? So we give a quite good clarity, and there is no human touch to it. That is, everything is so automated. You get reports within 24 hours of your average biomass. What's the sigma distribution? What's the distribution of the fish? So the fish which was lost because of this activity, because they had to manually weigh the biomass, is completely saved. You can feed better, you can treat the fish welfare improves, and this results into higher fish output at the end of the day. And this is the value that we provide to the aquaculture industry. So this is something as a start. And certainly we want to move in the direction of knowing the shape of the fish, because we were just having fun with the system. We just thought, okay, there are some small fish and a big fish in the same tank. Can this be true? So we were just trying to find out images which leads to the small weights. And we found out there were some fins which was not well developed in a certain fish. That's why, although being of the same age, it did not grow so of the same weight. So these are certainly some of the features that we can offer. Having said that, this is still an R&D. This is a lot of R&D, because deploying computer vision or machine learning into fields like this is challenging aspect. But we are far we have achieved it. So that's monitor fish. We are quite open to let the system being tested at any farm, because now we are confident. We reduce the project execution timeline as well. So we are also open for universities to collaborate to develop new features, but we are more centered towards commercialization. And this is our basic need. So we want something to create something that adds actually value in the industry, and not stored somewhere in a university shelf. So, and nobody uses it. So that's our basic need. So anyone with this mindset, with actually helping aquaculture, actually improving the growth, improving the welfare, and trying to save oceans at the end of the day, because more aquaculture is done sustainably, less stress is actually put on oceans, and then we allow the nature the time it needs to heal itself. So that's our vision, and that's monitor fish. Thank you.
Amazing. No, thank you so much. It's really exciting to hear that you're kind of going from that R&D phase into hopefully that commercialization phase sooner down the line. What I'm going to do is I'm going to move kind of straight on into the next pictures, and then we'll come back to questions at the end, just so we can make sure everyone's got their time slots to pitch. So next up, we've got Matthias Justet, who is the CEO of Cresponics. Cresponics has developed an innovative land-based technology for farming giant shrimp, which sounds very exciting. So I'm going to pass over to you, Matthias.
Thank you. Yes, my name is Matthias Justet, and I am CEO and co-founder of Cresponics. And Cresponics is then developing this new land-based farming technology for both fish and shrimp, but we are mainly focusing on venomous shrimp, also called giant shrimp or scampi. At least in Sweden, we call it a lot scampi. And we are solving some of the unsustainable challenges in the sector. And the challenges that we have is around feed. We need to find a sustainable feed and don't include soy protein and fish meal. And we need to find economical waste treatment technologies towards land-based farming of shrimp. So the end product still will be economical, viable to sell on the market. And in the end, we also need to find as good welfare in this land-based farming system as possible, both to increase the survival rate and the welfare of the shrimp. And next slide, yeah. And this is a picture of the core innovation in Cresponics, and it's a wastewater treatment system. So we have the organic waste from a land-based shrimp or actually a fish tank you can also have, and you take this organic waste of feces and feed residuals, and you pump it into a unique bioreactor. And this bioreactor uses this organic waste as a nutrient source to grow bacteria and microalgae and a lot of other microorganisms. And we reuse 100% of the organic waste through this, even the fibers and the wax and really high density particles. And then we pump this bacteria and algae back to the shrimp tank again, and they can just filtrate and eat this through their gills and as a new natural and sustainable food source. So the big research about this is that we can substitute 100% of the fish meal in the added feed by this locally produced microbe feed. And we can decrease the total feed consumption of the farm by 30% and increase the survival rate. And all of this is verified through long research in the Swedish University of Agriculture, and also a total of 16 land-based large-scale farms in the tropics in Africa and in South America. And Cresponics was established 2 years ago, trying to take this really verified and successful technology in the tropics and adapt it to the colder climate, because there is a huge potential to establish a regional produced Vanemy giant shrimp product in Europe, in USA, in East Asia, where the biggest markets are. So 2021, we did our first pilot in Sweden. And now we're aiming at establishing our first commercial farm of 1,000 ton delivery per month. And the first step there is to create a fry production, the fingerlings, the babies. And we are doing that right now, secured investment for that. And we are establishing that in Västervik in Sweden and in the Baltic Sea, using the Baltic Sea. And then after that, we will verify the first commercial unit of this 1,000-ton farm in Sweden. And after that, we will establish the 1,000-ton farm somewhere in Europe. It doesn't need to be Sweden. And next slide, please. This is the founder team. So I have a background in bioscience directed towards entrepreneurship. So I am an expert how to commercialize biological innovations. And then we have Anders Kissling and Sergio Zimmerman, who is the inventors of this technology. So Anders is a professor of aquaculture at the Swedish Agriculture University. And Sergio is a worldwide expert around tilapia and shrimp, and has 35 years industry experience. And today I'm here just to network and also looking for opportunities where to establish. We're looking for the site to establish this 1,000-ton farm. And we're looking for collaborations with local industries around waste heat, like industries that emit the waste heat in their processing plants, so we can warm up our tropical farms, economical and sustainable. And our bioreactor is also can break down other organic wastes. So we're also looking for other industries that we can take in their waste, either food waste or organic residuals, and we can convert it into a fish or shrimp feed, sustainable shrimp and fish feed. And overall, yes, connecting with interesting people and organizations. So you can contact me on my email, Matthias@cresponics.se, or just my telephone number there. Call me whenever. Thank you.
Perfect. No, thank you. If anyone has any questions, pop them in the chat, and then Matthias, if you want to answer them, just so we can move on to our penultimate pitch, which is with Matthias Bowman, who is the co-founder of SeaStem. SeaStem is an algae industry startup developing equipment to sustainably improve seaweed production logistics. So I'm going to pass over to Matthias if he is still with us.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Brilliant. Thank you.
Great. Thank you for the introduction. Another Matthias to pitch today. Great to see you. Well, first of all, thank you for the opportunity to allow me to present my project today with you guys. As you mentioned, we develop sustainable equipment for the seaweed industry in Europe. More specifically, right now we are focused on our first piece of equipment, which is a solar seaweed dryer. To give a bit of context, nowadays in Europe, about 300,000 tons of seaweeds are being harvested each year. And projections are estimating that this number will grow up until 8 million tons by the end of the decade, which is a really good thing for the environment. However, to reach its full potential, the European seaweed industry needs to unlock a couple of bottlenecks. And one of them is seaweed stabilization upon harvest. Of course, as many of you may know, seaweed is full of water. Hence, as soon as you take them out of the ocean, microorganisms start to develop and degrade the products in the next 24 to 48 hours. So that's the time frame during which you need to stabilize it. One of the method giving the best results in terms of shelf life and also micronutrient preservation is drying or dehydrating, basically just removing the water. And so this is the method that we investigated. We ran a market research last year and interviewed a lot of different stakeholders, such as seaweed farmers, seaweed processors in Europe. What we were forced to notice is that most of them were relying either on rudimental approaches, such as simple line drying, which exposes the product to contamination, doesn't give consistent results, and also has longer drying time. On the other hand, some other players rely on already existing equipment that is meant for other agricultural purposes. Equipment such as tumble dryers or belt dryers that are, if you visualize them, they're pretty bulky. It's really heavy and large equipment that is often centralized and thus not accessible to all of the seaweed farms or the seaweed stakeholders that might require to dry their product. Of course, it's extremely expensive to buy and to run. And on top of that, it requires a lot of energy, which altogether impacts the sustainability of the global supply chain, as well as the product competitivity in the market. Well, with that in mind, we decided to come up with our own solution, which I described earlier, this solar seaweed dryer. You can see in the background, can we just take one more minute on the last slide? Sorry, yeah, no, all good. You can see in the background, this is only a visual prototype, so it doesn't reflect the actual look of the end product that we want to develop, but it's more like to crystallize a bit our vision. As you can see, it's something that looks pretty modular and mobile, and this is really important to us. We have in mind, while designing our product, something that is deployable as close as possible to the harvesting site. This to save the transportation costs and energy, just to move wet seaweed around, which we found it's pretty annoying. And also by solar dryer, we mean that our dryer will rely at least on 50% on solar thermal energy, not photovoltaics, though we might have some modules, photovoltaic modules to power small electronics. But by solar, we really mean solar thermal energy to warm up the air that will then enter the drying chamber and dry the biomass in there. That's the main lines of our solution. We can move to the next two slides, which is more about the skills revolving around the project. So we started a small scale prototype during the spring. So as you can hear, it's just pretty fresh, pretty new projects. And so far we've been gathering a lot of insights in solar radiation management, as well as drying kinetics. On the other hand, we've also secured some industrial partnerships that allowed us to develop a good feeling for the seaweed processing supply chain, and each and every single step we were able to experiment them, thanks to our partner Nuven, French seaweed processing company, that hosted us this spring for a week, and we were really able to put our hands in the seaweed and see how it's done, from the harvest to the final dried product, and really grasp the challenges around the supply chain. And finally, we can move to the last slide. This is not a skill per se, but more something that we developed along our path for the last year, building this database of key players of the European seaweed industry, and how, and especially how they are connected to each other, from research institutes to seaweed producers, seaweed farmers, resellers, etc. And also working towards integrating the key networks of the seaweeds industry in Europe to reach out to potential customers, but also to develop our solution shaped by the needs and the challenges of our final users. That's, I think, all from me. I would be happy to answer your questions in the Q&A. Again, thank you for your attention and the opportunity to present my project.
You're very welcome. And again, if anyone's got any questions, please post them in the chat so Matthias can answer them. We've now just got our final pitch for today. Sorry, we're running a little bit behind schedule, but this is our final pitch, which is with Antonio, who is the partner and advisor at Green Tech Innovators, who are part of our EIT Food Accelerator Network program. Green Tech Innovators is converting food waste to feed ingredients via microalgae. So Antonio, I will pass over to you.
Hello.
Hello, can you hear us okay? We can hear you.
Okay, I can hear you. I can't see the slide. Yeah, all right.
Okay.
So I'm calling from Norway, based at Bergen, Green Tech Innovators. And can I have the next slide, please? Trying to tackle mostly two main challenges that the world has these days. Of course, we'll not solve them, but we're trying to find solutions that contribute to solving them. The first big problem is food waste. There's a lot of food waste being produced on a daily basis, as you can imagine. And we are more and more aware of this, that we have to find other ways of handling food waste, because the current technologies that we use to handle food waste have a very strong environmental impact. So we need to find something that is more sustainable. What is a paradox is that food waste is also a very rich nutrient source. So we figured that we could do something with it. Can we have the next slide, please?
Of course.
The other main problem that we are trying to tackle, that you've heard all most about, and you've being in this webinar means that you are all aware about aquaculture challenges. So feed ingredients scarcity is one of these, particularly omega-3 rich sources. So that's what we're trying to target by finding a sustainable source of microalgae that are rich in omega-3 oils. Next slide, please. So we figured that we could try and work on a circular solution that takes the food waste of different sources, but we are particularly interested in working with household food waste, which is a mixed food waste that no one wants to work with, because it's a mixed food waste and it's hard to get and to work with it. But we are working on a solution for this food waste. We're developing a technological process to release the nutrients in this food waste, controlled process, and then use these nutrients to grow microalgae via fermentation, which is rich in proteins and omega-3 oils. This will be used as a feed ingredient, a sustainable feed ingredient for the aquaculture industry. We are a startup that was founded 4 years ago. We have started developing our pilot plant. We have worked a lot on the development of the process that efficiently releases the nutrients from the food waste, particularly the sugars. We have partners that are helping us with the optimization of the fermentation process for the microalgae. And we are very grateful for the opportunity of talking to you today and presenting our project, and we look forward to collaborate with anyone that is interested in this subject. Thank you very much.
Amazing. Thank you, Antonio. Again, once again, if people have got any questions for Antonio, please pop them in the chat. So that kind of concludes the pitching section of the webinar. I appreciate we're running over time. We'll stay online for another 5 minutes for people who do want to stay on. And we were just going to say, if there's any questions that people wanted to ask any of the speakers who are still on the call, please feel free to drop them in the Q&A box now. and we'll just spend a couple of minutes answering any last questions before we wrap up the webinar. Mercedes, is there anything in the chat box or in the Q&A? I can't see at the moment.
Yes, there are some indeed. So the first question is for, well, this is a little bit a tough moment because I need to pronounce a name which I have no idea how to pronounce. Kaitiana, probably, no idea, sorry, the first startup, the first pitch. Does the solution work with one type of fish? If yes, with what type? If not, with what types do you have work? Apologize for my pronunciation.
No problem. You're not the first one. So I had to actually send Laura the actual pronunciation video to get that thing, but we did a good job. But to answer the question again, any type of finfish, this is something that we do. We do not do eels as of till now, because we tried with eels, but computer really gets confused between its head and tail. So we need to figure it out how to do it. Shrimps. Shrimps need another setup. There are some farms. I'm quite happy to see that there are some land-based farms. They come in. They are clear water, so the requirement of camera is much different than what we have in the offshore or on land other types of fish. So this is question of camera. But to again answer the question, we have worked with pike perch, we have worked with sea bream, sea bass, we have worked with perch, we are now working with yellowtail and salmons. So these are some of the fish, but the type of fish is not important, because we realized to scale this technology, we had to train, or we needed an ability to train for any type of fish quite rapidly. So this is the part of the AI that we have built along with the data science approach, that any new type of fish species, irrespective of where it is, in which geography it is grown, we can train it under 4 weeks. So any type of fish can work.
Thank you so much. The next question is for Matthias. Hi, Matthias. Are there any food safety issues surrounding the use of shrimp fakers to produce shrimp that go into human food chains? Example, EU legislation prevents animals reared on animal bioproducts entering the food or feed chain. Matthias?
Yes. Great question. It is the technology is based on taking together different technologies, and the main technologies is biofloc technology, it's called, and ROS technology and bioreactor technology, and the ground technology that cleans the water. What you are talking about here, taking the organic waste and converting it into microbial biomasses, is biofloc technology, and that is already, and we are further developing the biofloc technology here. But the biofloc technology is already operated inside Europe in farms, so there's no problems establishing that.
Thank you. And yes, I think we don't have more questions. Let me double check again. No, there is another question. Hello again, Kaitiana. Does you have any other hardware requirements with Wi-Fi, lights, etc.? Kaitiana?
Can we repeat the question, please?
Does you have any other hardware requirements, for example, Wi-Fi, lights, etc.?
Yeah, we need Wi-Fi. We need Wi-Fi at the farm. That's the only requirement what we have, but that's a tricky one sometimes. And we are here based in Germany, and sometimes one of the first farms, what we had to do is, we talk about digitalization, but first thing what we had to do is get internet in that village. But I believe the other parts of the world does not have much of this problem. Internet is quite stable and good.
I also have a question to you. Yeah, and in our system, it is it's a different from traditional raw system, because we have this microbial community growing inside the system. So your technology, of course, we want it into the system, but it will maybe interesting to look in how to do this, because we have high particles, so it's really maybe harder for the camera to see, because it's a lot of high density particles in the system, and you have a microbial biomass that will grow on the camera probably.
Yeah.
And need to clean it.
Yes, cleaning is necessary irrespective of whatever you put inside. But what we have done so far to reduce the risk. So there are some aspects that there's a lot of engineering that went into these cameras. So firstly, it is salt water or normal water, starts with that basics. Secondly, there are no sharp edges towards this camera so that the fish is not hurt, even if it tries to attack, because there are some predator fish, there are some fish which are shy, which will just run away. Secondly, the capture has to be done so well that it is not stressing the fish. So we use infrared. And now, because we use infrared, we can filter out, we can see through some of the high turbidity issue. So, and the fourth part is how dense is the fish. Then it doesn't matter because it's so close to the fish. So it's just like having fish so close, you will never be able to see it. But then the ability to see or estimate biomass, even if we see the part of the fish. So this is some of the highlights of the technology that we have worked in. So we have worked in for 3 years now. So it took us a bit of time. Therefore, it took us time to solve these critical issues before we could commercially scale it out.
Sounds really good. Let's connect.
Yep.
Love that. Collaboration happening live.
There is one more question that people are asking for the link for the 2023 call information. I think you have one slide about the links.
I do, yeah, final slide.
Because I also put in the chat the link for the innovation platform, the open innovation platform, but I think it hasn't been
work.
Everyone. So yes, so all the links are here in this slide, and you are going to share the slides with the participants, so you will be able to use these links. But I would like also to say that in the call page, that is the link number in the first column, you will find the pre-recording webinar we ran last Monday, where we explained the call guidelines, all the operational and administrative requirements, criteria. So there will be, it's a extensive webinar, 1 hour and a half, where we explained all the requirements and criteria. So we have also in the call page FQA documents with the most common questions. And there is this email address at the bottom of the column, the first column, where you can send all your questions, and we will reply to you immediately. So also from the Northwest, we are happy here to help you in terms of aquaculture and also the other focus areas. If you are thinking about other focus areas or any requirements or criteria you need to understand for this call, please drop up a message, email, so we are happy to support here. This is from my side. And thank you for being with us today.
Amazing. Thank you, Mercedes. Yeah, thank you to all of the speakers that we've had today. Thank you to everyone who has attended. Thank you to everyone who's asked loads of questions. We've had a few questions about the chat box not working, so I don't know if that was a recurring theme, but apologies if anyone was having any issues with that. But as Mercedes said, we'll follow up with an email by the end of the day with all this information about the slides from today, the innovation call that Mercedes mentioned, and any other bits of information that we think would be useful for you. So I'm going to sort of pause here then, and I think that's a bit of a wrap for today. So again, thanks to everyone for attending. It was really nice to present to you this morning, and we hope that everyone has a good rest of the day. Thank you very much. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.